Part 13. Cannon Fodder Strategy. Author, Juan ERWR. Chapter 122. When Lily returned to the starry sky, she saw for the first time that Li Yangzi was standing in the space waiting for her instead of appearing after she appeared in the space. Compared with the previous ones, this mission seemed to be no more difficult. Just when he was about to speak, Li Yangzi seemed to be relieved. I have been waiting for you for a long time. You have done a good job in this task. What do you want to add to the little gift I gave you? Lily was stunned for a moment when he opened his mouth. After thinking about it, he agreed, I want to add it to the force. Her current points are generally not very high. After passing the intelligence level for a while, she hesitated a little. Li Yangzi nodded, and Lily's information appeared in the starry sky. Gender, female, variable. Name, Lily. Age, 21. Intelligence, 61, out of 100. Appearance, 61, out of 100 points. Physical strength, 59, out of 100. Force, 22, out of 100 points. Spirit, 15, out of 100 points. Reputation, 20, out of 100 points. Skills, 9 Yang Manual, 9 Yin Manual, Heaven and Earth Gate Tao Te Ching, Southern Gu Technique. Specialties, Intermediate Cooking Skills, Intermediate Acting Skills. Charm, 33, out of 100. Collection, Corpse King's Love, Saint's Blessing, Angel's Heart. This mission was very simple, and Lily had already guessed that the reward might not be high. However, when she saw that after completing the mission, her other attributes were not increased, but her strength was only increased a little, she still couldn't help but feel a little disappointed. The principle of seeking wealth through risk also applies at this time. The higher the reward in dangerous tasks, like this time the princess who was cannon fodder by Chen Shimei. As long as she is prepared and relying on the convenience of status, you can win steadily, and because of this, the rewards are very rare. Now there is a mission that does not belong to you, but I hope you can go. If you can go, I will add another layer to the reward that originally belongs to you. Of course, if you don't want to go, you can also enter again. You were supposed to enter the mission. After Li Yangzi finished talking about attribute values, he started to mention another thing. Although Lily had heard Li Yangzi say that she was not the only one doing the missions, she had done so many missions and had never met anyone else. In addition, Li Yangzi never said similar words later, so at this moment, he took the initiative to bring it up, and Lily looked at him curiously. This mission has a certain degree of danger. If you go there, if you are not determined, it may be ruined. If you don't want to, I won't force you. If you want to enter the next mission now, I am also willing to send you there. Li Yangzi said nothing when he saw her. After explaining a few more words, Lily glanced at him curiously. Ever since she met Li Yangzi and started doing missions, although his attitude was quite cold, he had always taken good care of her. More importantly, in several missions, he had also helped him, whether it was saving her from death in Swordsman, or later when she asked Li Yangzi for help several times, he had helped him. Lily never thinks that there is a free lunch in the world, nor does she think that it is natural for others to help her. When she gets along with others, there is a mutual relationship. If Li Yangzi still wants to help her in the future, if she has no life now, Lily was willing to help him when threatened. If the mission fails, will it be considered a punishment? She tilted her head and asked, and a smile appeared in Li Yangzi's eyes. Since you are entering a dangerous mission that does not belong to you, I cannot count you after the failure. My original mission, but what I want to tell you is that this mission is very dangerous. If you fail, you may not be able to wait for the day of punishment. He said it very mysteriously, and Lily didn't understand. I glanced at him, thought for a moment and nodded. I'm willing to help. Lily has also done several missions. She understands that if she feels that she can't stand it anymore and dies, the most the mission will be is a failure. Since there is no penalty for failure now, she really can't think of anything. The reason was not to help Li Yangzi, not to mention that it was the first time Li Yangzi asked her to help. Lily instinctively felt that she should not miss such an opportunity, otherwise she would definitely regret it. I've recorded your love. Li Yangzi didn't seem surprised when she agreed. The smile at the corner of his mouth deepened and he glanced at Lily. If you can't persist, you can come back earlier. There was only one way to return to space, and that was when she died. After completing so many missions, the only time she could truly free herself was when she met Lan Yu. Although Lily felt in her heart that she might not reach that point, but thinking about Li Yangzi's good intentions, he nodded. When she returned to reality from the feeling of not being able to step on the bottom, she struggled a bit. Her whole body was stiff but she seemed unable to move at all. The noise around her gave her a splitting headache, and a large group of chaotic memories and plots flooded into her mind. Lily couldn't help but almost moaned. There were cries and screams from all around, and the smell of potion was smelled on her nose. She was lying flat on something, and her limbs seemed to be tied up. Lily Yang, it would be good for you if you were more honest. Do you think you are the eldest lady of the Yang family? A sharp female voice rang in the room, and then she sneered softly, Brother Bai Yang no longer wants to you, you are still living shamelessly. If I were you, I would die long ago. Shut up, her body struggled instinctively. Lily had absorbed most of the memories in her mind. Before she could finish them, a needle pierced her blood vessel. When the cold liquid pushed into her whole body, he lost consciousness in an instant. She seemed to have had an extremely long dream. In the dream, there was a woman named Yang Beihe who had been turning over in her mind all her life. From the innocent childhood to the flowering period, Lily was smiling when she woke up. When she woke up, she obviously came to do a mission, but now she had such a dream. After opening her eyes, Lily couldn't laugh anymore. When the injection was pushed into her blood vessels, she fell asleep. I have absorbed most of the memory, but I haven't had time to absorb the plot at all. I only absorbed the first half of the woman named Yang Beihe's life, which happened to be after she entered the hospital, and what happened to her later, and there was no trace of what happened to her mentioned. Lily's eyelids jumped up, she couldn't help but cursed a few words in her heart, and began to desperately call Li Yangzi in her heart, but she didn't know what happened this time. She shouted for a long time, until she was dizzy and dizzy. Li Yangzi's the figure did not appear again. Lily couldn't help but want to curse her, but recalling the memories in her mind, she couldn't help but really cursed. Holy shit, although she had done many missions and not increased her IQ and various attribute values, her self-cultivation gradually increased over time. She was actually not easily angry at the moment. But whoever finds himself in a provincial mental hospital after waking up will definitely have the same expression as hers. Her body was originally named Yang and Lily, and she came from one of the richest families in the provincial capital. The ancestors of the Yang family once started by selling small goods. After 2 generations of development, it gradually became the famous Yang's department store. It is one of the richest families in the provincial capital. The Yang family is a prominent figure in the city. In this generation, Yang Beihe's father, Yang Tiancheng, had an only daughter like Yang Beihe, who had been raised in a pampered way. Yang Tiancheng tried his best to get a son, but he didn't know if he was missing the son in his life. He had worked hard for most of his life, but he still only had one child. There were 2 illegitimate daughters, but because they were both my daughter, so I didn't take her home. When Yang Beihe was 7 years old, Yang Tiancheng was getting older, and gradually gave up his desire to have a son, and simply put all his hopes on his daughter. His daughter was aloof and arrogant, and had suffered from childhood abuse under the influence of his wife who came from a scholarly family. Yang Tiancheng gave birth to 10 adopted sons, and wanted to raise 10 adopted sons. When the children grew up, Yang Tiancheng would give birth to them. Lily herself chooses a husband to marry to inherit the Yang family's thoughts. Such an idea was originally very outrageous, but because Yang Tiancheng had a huge influence in the provincial capital, and adopting a child was also a good thing, no one dared to discuss it behind his back. Lily Yang grew up peacefully all the way. She just needs to do what she likes to do, and then choose a sworn brother she likes to marry. She is born as if there is nothing to worry about. When she celebrated her 20th birthday in such a careless way, she always loved her. Yang Tiancheng seemed to fall ill suddenly and was admitted to the intensive care unit of the hospital. He fell asleep for half a month and could not wake up. Once he fell, the Yang family seemed to be in chaos. First, she began to find ghosts in the Yang family inexplicably. She began to have trouble sleeping every day. She often saw many scary things after insomnia. This girl used to be like a little flower in a greenhouse, it couldn't withstand the slightest bit of wind or rain. After being frightened for a month, he told his adopted brothers that there was a ghost in the villa. Her sworn brother, who had always loved her very much, thought she was hallucinating, so after comforting her, they discussed sending her to the hospital. Unexpectedly, she saw more weird scenes this time. After coming back, she suddenly heard weird laughter in the middle of the night. The whole villa was obviously full of servants, but it was as quiet as a ghost town. Sometimes she could see Yang Tiancheng, who had been lying in the hospital for more than a month like a living dead. Suddenly appearing at home, Lily Yang collapsed quickly. She began to scream and be frightened. She did not dare to be alone all day long. Finally, several foster brothers had no choice but to send her to a mental hospital. From then on, they took turns to come here every half-month. Look at her, it's been half a year now. To be continued. Cannon Fodder Strategy. Author, Wan Erwr. Chapter 123. In the past 6 months, Lily Yang had not contacted anyone outside, nor had she contacted her father. She didn't know Yang Tiancheng's situation, let alone when she would be able to leave this place. More importantly, Lily Yang herself started I wonder if she is really suffering from mental illness. As her elder brother Yang Yifeng said, she suffers from persecutory delusion. Therefore, sometimes when she lives in the ward, she can see white shadows floating outside and terrifying laughter. This everything is really torturing this girl crazy. In her self-disgust and doubt, she is often tortured mentally and physically. Sometimes if she is really frightened, a nurse will forcibly inject her with a sedative. A girl who is not yet 21 years old, but after being in the hospital for half a year, her eyes look dull, almost like she is about 30 years old. The voice she heard before she fell asleep belonged to Yang Jingruo, one of Yang Tiancheng's illegitimate daughters. She had disliked the position of the wife's daughter since she was a child. Yang Beihe's mother had passed away when she was 13, but Yang Jingruo's, no matter how his mother hinted, he didn't know what he was thinking. He had no intention of bringing home a pair of illegitimate daughters from outside. Therefore, Yang Jingruo hated Lily very much. After Lily entered the mental hospital, she was the happiest. On the 10th day of the month, Yang Jingruo would come to stimulate her, and every time she couldn't bear it, she would go crazy. After being injected with sedatives, Yang Jingruo seemed to be able to find pleasure. Because Yang Jingruo was not favored compared to Yang Beihe since she was a child, and she was an upright daughter, she was very jealous of her. This time, she seemed to have found an opportunity, and came over to stimulate her again and again, until Lily Yang saw her again. She was afraid and hated her, and every time she screamed and cursed when she came over, she felt so proud. Lily thought about missing half of the plot. Now I feel like vomiting blood. No wonder Li Yangzi always said that this mission was very dangerous. It turned out that everything was possible in a mental hospital. Just when she was about to scream, Someone knocked on the window outside. Lily turned her head to look at it, and her body couldn't move at all. She realized that she was tied to the hospital bed. It turned out that every time Yang Jingru came, she would scream and be scared like crazy, and the doctor would directly find a nurse and tie her to the hospital bed. Give her a sedative or anesthetic, and her memory will get worse and worse, her hallucinations will become more and more serious, and she will become a lot slower and sluggish. If things continue like this, people who are not crazy will probably become crazy. Ziahe, it's time to eat barbecue. The person outside the window saw Lily wake up and smiled at her. She was a woman in her 30s with short hair. At this moment, her face was covered with dirty grease and firewood ash, and she showed a pair of white teeth when she grinned. There was a silly look on his face when he smiled, and when he waved to Lily, Lily couldn't help but have the urge to turn her head away. But she still couldn't help but answer, because there was a thunderous roar in her stomach. When she heard the barbecue, her mouth drooled. Look at me tied up like this, how can I eat barbecue? When the woman with a lewd smile outside heard this, she jumped up and opened the window. The man jumped in as nimbly as a monkey. The corners of Lily's mouth twitched, and the words "Old Lou" came to mind. This should be the female patient in the next ward. She has been here for more than 2 years and has a good status in the hospital. She accidentally discovered that Yang Bei had been admitted to this single room half a year ago and often came to see her. At first, she wanted to coaxing Lily Yang to change rooms. This guy sometimes didn't seem to be suffering from mental illness, but was actually a bit clever. It was obvious from the fact that she wanted to change wards that she was not stupid. But once Lily Yang heard that she had raped a woman after taking aphrodisiacs, she knew that this guy was really sick, and the illness was not serious. She took a lot of medicine from nowhere all day long, and told people everywhere it was an aphrodisiac, and she deceived many patients in the hospital into paying for it or exchanging it for something. Lily Yang was a little afraid of her from then on, but Lao Lu often came to play with Lily Yang, making it clear that he regarded her as his future love partner. One of the ways to treat. At this moment, old Lu jumped in, and while pulling up the rope tied to Lily's body, he said boldly, "These doctors, they stay stupid with patients all day long, and they often use violence against our comrades. This is very dangerous, it's not good." The corner of Lily's mouth twitched. Seeing that she couldn't pull the rope, she stretched out her white teeth to bite. Originally, she wanted to doubt her IQ. The things that tied her up were all rubber tubes. The layers of thick binding were so tight that even her hands and feet were almost unconscious. How could she tear them apart without scissors? But unexpectedly, Lao Lu opened his mouth to bite it, and it snapped with a click. Lily's eyes twitched, and she couldn't help but ask, "How did you bite it off?" "I practice every day, and my teeth are very hard." She stood up quietly, as if Lily hadn't noticed her, and pointed at her white teeth with a grin. "Did you see that? You will bite several times in a day or two. I have bitten you so many times. You still don't remember this, Ziahe, are you stupid? How can you be my girlfriend in the future? Take you out. How shameless I am." The veins on Lily's forehead were beating wildly. She pushed the crazy old Lu away and asked her to bite the rubber band on her feet quickly. She waved her hands to activate her blood vessels, and her feet felt much better. She just jumped out of bed, and while she was thinking hard about how to run the 9 Yang manual, she saw Lao Lu opening the door and following her. The two walked a few steps and walked around twice. The lock of a courtyard where patients usually move around was opened, and the fragrance of oil came from inside. Lily swallowed her saliva and asked involuntarily, "Where did you get the meat?" There are restrictions on the daily food supply in the mental hospital. Some patients tend to self-mutilate. Some sharp knives, hairpins, chopsticks and other objects are stared at while eating, and they are not allowed to eat too much, for fear of losing strength after making a fuss. The nurses can't hold back when they're full, So every patient here is in a stage where they're not too full, but they're still hungry. Naturally, they don't have some daily necessities such as oil, salt, rice, vinegar, and even less likely to have dishes and chopsticks. Not to mention dangerous items like lighters. At this moment, I don't know where these people got the ingredients. When Lily followed old Lou, about 7 or 8 patients were surrounding a fire. At this moment, the unique aroma of roasted meat could be heard in the air. Old Qian stole the key from Dr. Wang and went to get some salt and pepper. As for the meat. When old Lu said this, he showed a meaningful smile, with a bastard look on his face. It's altogether made up. After she said this mysteriously, several patients turned their heads and grinned at Lily. These patients had blood on their arms or thighs. When Lily saw it, not only their lips began to twitch, but also their cheek muscles began to twitch. He started shaking uncontrollably. Did you cut your own flesh and roast it? You should never understand the sky of a mentally ill person, because unless you also evolve into a fellow human being. Lily saw a few people nodding and grinning. There was nothing in her stomach, and now it began to churn. I won't eat it no matter how strong her taste is. She has not reduced herself to eating human flesh. Lao Lu regarded her as his love interest. At this moment, he looked a little anxious about Lily's rejection. He quickly said with a serious face, I promise, it's not their flesh. Looking at the patients who were shaking their heads with old Lu and who had obviously just had their flesh cut off, Lily's face was covered in blood. Don't treat her like a fool. She has just entered the hospital and is very normal. Do you really think she is a fool for telling lies like this? Although she was very hungry, Lily still firmly refused several people's attempts to share the food with her. Seeing how everyone took a bite of the meat and ate it with gusto, even the people who cut off the meat seemed to enjoy it. Lily was silent. Being among such a group of mental patients, it is easy for people to feel like they are about to collapse at any time. There are no cameras in the ward during the day, because in order to prevent the patients from going crazy, a camera will be placed in the ward. Lily. She didn't shout ghost for 2 days in a row, which attracted the attention of her attending physician, Dr. Wang. He was a short, fat old man about 50 years old. He looked at her with appraising and wary eyes. He looked very defensive. Ms. Yang, you should take the medicine. You can't stop taking the medicine. Your condition is getting worse. Dr. Wang glanced at Lily, poured out a large amount of medicine at once, and signaled the nurse to come forward and pour some water. After taking a look, she decided to refuse, but she glanced at the 4 sturdy nurses standing next to Dr. Wang, secretly compared the strength of the 2 sides, and fell silent again. Now her martial arts can't keep up at all, and even if she has to learn it again, it will take at least a year and a half before she can hit the road. However, she has received Lily Yang's memory and knows that Lily Yang's situation is now in a dead end. She takes a lot of medicine every day, and the ingredients in it are unknown. Judging from the girl's increasingly blurred memory, there may be something wrong with these medicines, and she goes crazy for no reason. And Lily herself is a master at catching ghosts. She knows very well what is a real ghost and what is just a trick. Lily Yang must have been plotted by others, so she ended up where she is now. But she still didn't know which one was the source of harm, but she thought it should be related to the huge Yang family's property, otherwise she wouldn't end up in a mental hospital now. After 2 days of observation, she saw Wang with the doctor's serious and suspicious look on his face. Lily became more and more afraid to take the medicine in his hand. She was deeply afraid that if she was not careful, her life would be in danger. She was really afraid that she would also become a real psychopath. To be continued. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Cannon Fodder Strategy. Author, Juan Erwr. Chapter 124. At this moment, Lily couldn't help but think of Li Yangzi's warning. It doesn't matter if she can't complete the task, she might lose herself. That's what it meant. If she went crazy in the plot, I'm afraid she would go crazy when she returned to the starry sky. And Li Yangzi no longer needs a crazy person, and she will be useless. Once she is useless, her previous efforts will be like wasted. After Lily thought about this, she realized the danger of this mission. Where is the sex? Death is not terrible. What is terrible is that after death, even one's own consciousness disappears. The medicine Dr. Wang gave her was obviously 5 times more than the previous one. Thinking that she had not shouted "the ghost is coming" and danced like crazy in the past 2 days, it must have aroused Dr. Wang's suspicion. Lily felt I was convinced that Dr. Wang was evil, but now I looked sadly at the strong nurses in front of me. It was obvious that if she didn't take the medicine, she would be forcefully stuffed into her throat, and it was more likely that she would be given a sedative. She knew that Dr. Wang has a problem, but there is nothing he can do. After doing so many tasks, this was the first time that Lily felt a little tricky. No wonder Li Yangzi said that no one else could complete this task. She smiled bitterly in her heart, with a serious look on her face. She had no choice but to do it. He raised his chin proudly. What kind of medicine is this? Seeing her calm expression at this moment, Dr. Wang couldn't help but secretly guess whether Lily's illness was cured. He thought of the power behind this young lady of the Yang family and what he had done before, and something flashed in his eyes. He was very panicked, but he said with a smile, "Ms. Yang, please don't worry, this is medicine that is good for your condition. You will be fine after taking it. You lie to ghosts. I watched the sky last night. I got a martial arts set from the gods. It can exorcise evil spirits and strengthen the body." Lily burst into tears in her heart, but her face became more serious, and she crossed her legs. He stood up, assumed a martial arts posture, pushed his palms forward fiercely, and began to practice the 9 Yang manual in his body, but he bravely shouted, "I want to practice martial arts." She really wanted to practice martial arts, but she shouted out like this. Dr. Wang suddenly breathed a sigh of relief, thinking that she was even more crazy, and now she would practice martial arts in a whimsical way. Thinking of this, Dr. Wang looked at Lily's behavior with some contempt, feeling that she was like a monkey. As he moved, he felt more and more in his heart that this young lady from the Yang family was really hopelessly crazy. As long as she was locked up for another 1.5 years, I would not have to give her any more medicines and injections, and she would never be able to wake up again. Thinking that he had doubted that she might be cured before. Now it seems that she still wants to be good after coming in, but that is a fool's errand. Miss Yang's martial arts is really majestic. What's your name? Although Dr. Wang believed that Lily was extremely crazy, he still asked tentatively, "I wonder if you can teach me." Lily wanted to die now. She was really practicing martial arts, but now she had to pretend to be crazy and act stupid. The 9 Sons scripture was dignified, and now she was treated as a lunatic and played around, but she still had to pretend to be crazy. She looked so crazy that she had done so many missions. Except for the time in Swordsman where she really lost her IQ and made a lot of jokes because of her stupidity, she had not done such a shameful thing for many years. When she heard Dr. Wang's question, she said angrily, "Do you understand the 9 Yang Sutra? The Yang family is just a home of ordinary merchants, and there are no talented people in their ancestors. Otherwise, why would Miss Yang come here?" Dr. Wang obviously does not believe in the 9 Sons scripture, but looking at Lily's current state of mind, her heart, I feel relieved that I will no longer take medicine for Lily, and it is not like I was planning to force-feed Lily before. Anyway, Lily has no ability to escape from his grasp. If she enters a mental hospital in this life, she will never think of getting out. She is, if you keep pretending to be crazy, you will have to squat here for the rest of your life. Thinking of this, Dr. Wang laughed twice and winked at the nurses. They all went out one after another, and the door was locked. Lily didn't know if she should cry bitterly for her tragic fate in the future. This time she was tricked by Li Yangzi. That guy seemed to be full of fairy spirit, but he didn't expect that he would do such a trick. Next time when she heard that he asked her to help again, she really couldn't be fooled anymore. No matter whether she could complete the task this time or not, she had to keep her mind clear, otherwise all her efforts would be wasted. But it's not without good news. The good news is that she practices martial arts openly, jumping up and down in front of the camera, meditating to practice her internal strength, but among those who monitor her, she has become hopelessly crazy. It proved that it was not only Dr. Wang who knew that she was crazy. Old Lu came to see her once and shook his head and sighed, saying that Lily was crazy. Nima was pointed at and said to be crazy by a group of mentally ill patients, which made Lily want to kill someone. Time passed like this for half a month. It seemed like Dr. Wang had called the Yang family. No one came to see her again in the past half month. Even Yang Jingru did not show up again. Dr. Wang had people monitor her day and night. Oh my God, I noticed that she was shouting about what kind of exercises she was doing, so I stopped caring about her, because Lily was so crazy that it seemed like someone had forgotten to give her a sedative, which made Lily feel relieved. She didn't expect that she could escape this test by pretending to be crazy. 1 month later, thanks to her foresight to add martial arts attribute points, she finally found the sense of energy that originally took 1.5 to 2 months to find. Although she doesn't have sex, no one is paying attention to Lily when she is practicing now. She feels more comfortable than practicing secretly in any of her previous missions. Once she finds the sense of chi and feels the internal force flowing through her body, although it is only as thick as a grain of millet, but Lily is satisfied. The 9 Yang manual is not only extremely powerful when practiced, but also becomes all kinds of awesome in the later stages. She only needs to practice for a year, and then she will be able to go out. Mental hospital, as long as you leave this ghost place, the task will be completed or not. Cheng Lily will breathe a sigh of relief. Xiao He Laolu looked helplessly at Lily's weird posture sitting cross-legged outside the window, shook his head and sighed, "It's time to eat barbecue, don't practice any martial arts, Lao Qian is going to roast his ears this time." Lily's brows twitched, and she ignored her expressionlessly. She also refused to think about where the ears came from. This cold expression became a joke in the eyes of many people who were monitoring her, and they thought she was truly crazy. On the contrary, it makes people believe that she is really crazy compared to when she kept shouting "hit ghost" before. Eat the ears, the crispy little ears. Seeing that Lily was ignoring her, Old Lu took out a small medicine bottle from the back of her waist. She didn't know what kind of black balls were in it. She poured it out and chewed it. He swallowed it like a jelly bean, and generously extended his hand to Lily. "Do you want it?" Lily was sensitive to the sound of a group of footsteps coming towards her. It sounded like there were 7 or 8 people. One of the sounds belonged to Dr. Wang, and the other 2 footsteps could not be heard. It should be he is not a patient in this hospital. The person coming is from his own room. This is a small mental hospital called a private sanatorium on the outside. There are not many patients in it, but they all have a good background. The worst family background is like Lao Lu, who is from an ordinary wealthy family, and the best family background is like Yang Yang. Lily is the daughter of Yang Tiancheng, who is well known in the provincial capital. Lily can almost recognize the footsteps of people who come to visit patients. She is good at this after practicing martial arts. Although her skills are still poor, at least she has sharp ears. She had been walking a lot, and now she heard the footsteps coming towards her. She hurriedly waved to Lao Lu, wondering if they were some of Lily Yang's sworn brothers. She was not strong enough to compete with her at the moment. When someone tries to resist, if someone sees something weird, thinking of the consequences, Lily hurriedly shouts. In order to maintain the peace of the world and the universe, Laolu, are you willing to follow my footsteps and embark on this journey? As soon as she finished speaking, Lily couldn't help but tremble all over, but thinking of the unexplained person coming, but straightened his back straighter, showing a serious look. Old Lu was stunned, with a look of shock on his delicate face. "Mo, could it be that you are the legend?" "That's right," Lily interrupted old Lu before she could say anything, fearing that once old Lu finished speaking, he would be tempted to beat her to death. As if he had received a satisfactory answer, old Liu's eyes flashed brightly, and he suddenly covered his mouth and burst into tears for the first time. When Lily saw her look of surprise, most of her face turned dark. This old man Lu usually thinks of herself as a man who sheds blood, sweat, and not tears. Of course, she has always shed other people's blood and sweat, but now she started crying. Just when she was a little confused, Lily suddenly saw Laolu turning around and running away, while shouting, "The Holy Lord has been found, the Holy Lord has been found, you idiots, why are you roasting your ears? Hurry up and pick up your weapons, we will be the guardians of the universe and protect the earth and peace." Lily stared at her disappearing back, speechless. The group of people who just walked over pushed the door open and fell silent. Lily's face burned red for a moment. Although she wanted to pretend that she was still crazy to get through this, but when someone really saw her non-human side, I feel so ashamed that I can't even lift my head. "Ziahe, do you still recognize me?" The man standing in front of Dr. Wang was wearing glasses and pure white casual clothes. He was about 25 years old, with a polite smile on his elegant face. There was worry and a bit of self-control in his eyes when he looked at Lily. His tall figure now blocked the short and fat Dr. Wang. He leaned against the door and stared at Lily sadly. To be continued. Cannon Fodder Strategy. Author, Juan ERWR. Chapter 125. Bold. "Call me Holy Lord," he just blurted out a sentence under the influence of old Lu. After Lily finished scolding, her mind went blank. The handsome young man with a hint of melancholy showed a perfect and elegant expression for the first time. There was a hole in one of the masks, and a look of astonishment appeared on his face as he stared at Lily. She was embarrassed enough at this moment. Lily could only comfort herself that she was a lunatic in the eyes of others. Fortunately, people would not laugh at her at all. Only by thinking like this could she calm down. Otherwise, she would think of herself at this moment. What he just shouted made me want to slap myself. The young man in front of me is named Yang Yuru. He is the second adopted son of Yang Tiancheng, and the second brother in the ranking of Yang Beihe's future husband. He is gentle and elegant, with a hint of melancholy in his gentle manner, and has a thoughtful and considerate personality. In the past, Yang Beihe also liked to get along with him. Among the group of adopted sons, her relationship with Yang Yuru was not the best, but it was definitely not the worst. But she didn't know if it was because her memory hadn't finished taking it all in. At this moment, she instinctively felt that Yang Yuru was not her favorite person, but when she wanted to think of who was her favorite person, her mind went blank. Lily couldn't help but want to scold her, but just after she said that she was the Holy Lord, she was too embarrassed to speak again. Fortunately, she didn't need to speak anymore. Lily didn't feel that she was very embarrassed just now, because she was even more embarrassed. Things have already happened. Lao Lu led Lao Qian and a lot of mentally ill people who rushed in like crazy wild boars. They ran into people when they saw them. Even the gentle and elegant Yang Yuru was knocked against the door by them. On top, the gold-rimmed glasses on his face were also tilted to the side, and his originally obedient long hair was a little messy. It feels a bit wild. "See the Holy Lord," a group of mentally ill patients all knelt on the ground. Lily felt a slight pain in her balls for a moment. Everyone was speechless. Lily resisted the heat on her face and stretched out her hand. "Everyone, Please get back together. Thank you, Holy Master. Old Lu stood up with excitement on his face, with a hint of excitement in his eyes. Just as he was about to approach Lily, Dr. Wang couldn't help but twitching the corner of his mouth. You all come over to Miss Yang's side. What are you doing? Before he could finish his words, Lao Lu slapped him on the top of his head with a slap, which made Dr. Wang stunned for a moment, and then a sinister and angry look appeared on his chubby face. Just as he was about to speak, Old Lu took advantage of his height being higher than Dr. Wang and reached out to slap him on the forehead again. Idiot, if you want to call the Holy Lord, do you still want to practice martial arts and save the earth? Dr. Wang was beaten so hard that when he came to his senses, he was furious again. He is a doctor in a mental hospital, and he is the god who dominates these mental patients. If he wanted them to take medicine, he would take medicine, and if he wanted them to take injections, he would give them injections. These damn losers actually dared to beat him. Dr. Wang was furious. Bullshit about saving the world, you guys. This idiot. Hurry up and cover his mouth. When a group of mentally ill people heard that Dr. Wang dared to insult their holy lord, they couldn't help but rush towards Dr. Wang. They punched some in the face and pulled at the clothes. Many of them have a tendency to be abused, and Dr. Wang's counterattack is nothing to them. They even dare to cut off their own flesh and eat it, not to mention that it doesn't hurt or itch when someone hits them. The horror of mental illness was revealed. After a short time, most of Dr. Wang's clothes were stripped off. Old Lu stretched his hand to the back of his waist and took out a big stick with an iron stick on it that he got from nowhere. Cucumber. Everyone, get out of the way and let me come. The group of people couldn't help but disperse in a hurry. Before Dr. Wang could realize why he came back, Lao Lu took the cucumber and poked his buttocks, which were only wearing underwear, and shouted, I'll poke him. Ah, Dr. Wang covered his butt and jumped up. Old Lu said hee and laughed twice. Old Wang, come and buy my cucumbers, forget about him. Forget your mother. Dr. Wang was really angry at this moment. He made such a big show in front of the god of wealth and was beaten by a group of lunatics. If it weren't for this Old Lu, he would have been hospitalized for more than a year. Some people have even lived there for 2 or 3 years, and he would even wonder if these people were pretending to be crazy. At this moment, Dr. Wang's voice was filled with tears. These people beat him and did not say anything, and even harmed him. He has no face to see people, and he now wants to kill someone. Facing the lively scene in front of her, Lily was really speechless. When everyone was going crazy and she was awake alone, the only way to avoid ending up like Dr. Wang was to go crazy. She was silent for a long time. When the young man standing at the door stared at her with a confused expression, Lily slowly raised her head and asked seriously, Brother, do you want to join my Holy War Legion? I will make you the squad leader. Then I want to be the captain. I want to be a platoon leader. I'm a general. I am the marshal. When they were fighting for ranking, these people were not stupid. They were all red-faced and almost started fighting with their arms linked. When Dr. Wang was so angry that the veins on his forehead were beating, he didn't know who was hurting him in the fight. He knocked him to the ground again. You bunch of beasts, having made a fool of himself in front of distinguished guests twice in a row, Dr. Wang now wanted to kill someone. He stared at the person who knocked him down fiercely, and the mental patient turned to look at him. Without thinking, he stretched out a hand, slightly bent his index and middle fingers, and immediately poked his eyeball. What are you looking at? Watch me poke you again. Nima, even if I want to poke you, I should say hello first and then poke you. I'll say a warning after I've finished poking you. Dr. Wang squatted on the ground and shed tears. He really didn't want to say another word to this group of people, and secretly decided to double the amount of medicine he would give them when he went back. Zia have you become like this? Yang Yuru glanced at Lily blankly, with a complicated look in his eyes. His gentle face lowered his head at this moment, soft and soft. The fine hair hung down and blocked his eyebrows, forming a shadow. Only the resolute nose and tightly pursed pale pink lips were visible, bringing out a sharp line that was completely different from his temperament. He laughed softly, "It doesn't matter, it doesn't matter. I don't know anything. I'm happy. I'll come see you next time." After saying this, he put his hands in his pockets and didn't care about the person on the ground calling him second young master in embarrassment. Dr. Wang turned around and walked outside. His back was against the light, and he was tall and had a somewhat desolate appearance. Lily was just guessing about the relationship between Yang Yuru and Yang Lily. What was the relationship between the two of them originally? The small bottle of vitamins originally contained vitamins, but now she had replaced it with an unknown black pill known as an aphrodisiac in exchange for the position of the general. Lily couldn't help but laugh. When the nurses saw so many patients, they didn't dare to come and take care of them, for fear of ending up like Dr. Wang. The cucumber that Lao Qian was eating at the moment was the one that almost burst Dr. Wang's anus. I didn't want to get involved with this group of irrational lunatics, so I retreated with a tacit understanding. When these people left, she saw a group of people sitting obediently in front of her, all of them sitting cross-legged with firm expressions on their faces. Lily finally realized what it meant to suffer for one's own fault. In order to dispel the visitors' doubts, she deliberately pretended to be mentally ill. Unexpectedly, she coaxed Yang Yuru away, but left behind this mess. "Pass on the skills." Old Lu looked serious and winked at Lily. "Don't pity me just because I'm a delicate flower." Lily wanted to hit someone again at this moment. "I have been with this group of people for a while. Although they are all a bit abnormal, after getting along for a long time, I have still developed some tragic revolutionary feelings. Besides, they have just unexpectedly helped me." Especially she had personally promised to form a holy war group in front of Dr. Wang and others. Thinking of this annoying name, Lily couldn't help but wipe her face and decided to create a martial arts to teach them. Anyway, this group of people are all mentally ill, and they can only persist for 2 or 3 days at most. She doesn't dare to teach others the 9 Yang manual anymore, because the martial arts points have been increased by 2 points this time, and the 9 Yang manual has been forgotten by herself. But now she remembered most of the places she had passed. She would never teach others martial arts but almost bring bad luck to herself again, so she used the simple martial arts foundation to create a set of simple basic internal force and mental methods, and taught them separately to this group of people. To Lily's surprise, she thought that this group of people would not be able to persist, but 1 month passed, and 2 months passed. Not only did this group of people persist, but they came to her every day to report, and the benefits of practicing martial arts have also emerged. When Dr. Wang and others sneered and thought that this group of people had become more crazy, almost all of them had developed the sense of qi. They walked much lighter and their bodies were twice as strong. "Great, I feel more energetic walking and my eyes are much brighter." Because mental patients are not clear-headed, they are more persistent and simple when focusing on a certain thing. Because of this, everyone has developed qi sense. Once they practice martial arts, everyone will stop making trouble. Those with masochistic tendencies no longer cut their flesh and roast it, Lao Lu no longer manufactures counterfeit medicines, and Lao Qian no longer steals. Dr. Wang and the nurses breathed a sigh of relief. They seemed to be more conscious about taking medicine, because before there is no trace of the medicine in toilets and other places where the medicine was thrown away. Lily has been practicing for 3 months now, and the 9 Yang manual is indeed well deserved. Although it is much slower to get started than the 9 Yin manual, the foundation is solid. As long as she is given another half year, she will definitely be able to fly out of this world. Go to a mental hospital with multiple floors of electricity. To be continued. Cannon Fodder Strategy. Author, Juan Erwr. Chapter 126. As soon as the nurse left the room after checking the room, old Lu and others came over one after another. Dr. Wang has not dared to show up recently. Last time, he was stabbed with an iron stick on a cucumber. Later, he was scared when he saw cucumbers and barbecued meat. Fortunately, except for Lily, almost no one among the patients noticed this. "Have you taken your medicine?" Lao Lu asked. There were still traces of white medicine ash in her hands. She had obviously crushed the medicine into powder and flushed it down the toilet. Now that Lao Lu has practiced martial arts well, let alone crushing it was easy to crush pills, and it was not difficult to crush a brick. Unfortunately, there were no bricks for her to crush in the mental hospital. Lao Qian sneered twice and shook his head. "No, I threw it away." Another young man, about 26 or 17 years old, wearing glasses, tall, somewhat handsome, and very cold-looking, also shook his head. "Me neither. His name is Chu Yu, and he is the son of a certain leader in the city. Although he looks like a dog, he also has an indifferent expression. If a girl who doesn't know the details sees him, she will definitely blush and her heart will beat. But in fact, Lily knows, he was the sickest among them. I'm staying all." Hearing Chu Yu's words, old Lu looked back at him. "Why are you staying here? Those idiots think I will listen to them and take medicine on time." He sneered twice, with a sharp look in his eyes, and pushed up his glasses. "I want to save more and eat together. These people, evil monsters, don't even think of controlling me." Lily no longer knew what to say. Seeing a group of patients looking remorseful, it was as if Chu Yu had come up with a good idea that none of them had thought of. Everyone looked very regretful and angry. I couldn't help but feel very powerless. He stroked his forehead and shouted, "Okay. I order you to start practicing." Hearing this, everyone including Chu Yu immediately sat up straight and started practicing obediently. A group of nurses who had just been called idiots by Chu Yu finally walked back to the office after their rounds. When they saw a group of mentally ill people sitting together on the monitor, they looked like they had joined some cult organization. They couldn't help but cursed, "Idiot." The days passed like this, and I don't know if it was because Lily's intermediate acting skills were taking effect now, but everyone seemed to be very sick. She no longer sang and shouted "the ghost is coming" every day like before, nor did she shout for help. On the contrary, everyone was more willing to believe that she was really crazy, and no one came to give her a sedative. Time passed by. For less than half a year. It's almost the Chinese New Year now, and the nurses and doctors in the mental hospital also need to rest. Many patients' family members have also brought their things to visit their relatives. Everyone has relatives coming to see them, even Lao Liu's parents. They have been here, but none of Beihi's sworn brothers came. On the contrary, on New Year's Eve, Yang Jinggrua, who had not been seen for more than half a year, appeared. She was wearing a bright red down jacket, a pair of brown snow boots, a scarf around her neck, and a hat on her head. Traces of snowflakes could still be seen vaguely on her head. As soon as she came in, a cold air hit her face. "Welcome." She opened the door, but there was no one around her. Several nurses were on vacation, and Lily had been doing particularly well recently. Although she shouted about practicing martial arts, she didn't destroy anything in interest. So the nurses were much more relaxed about her supervision. They no longer accompanied Yang Jinggrua throughout the whole process as before, for fear that she would be injured. "Yang Lily, are you today too? I heard that you practiced martial arts, and what kind of holy master did you become?" It's really funny, as soon as Yang Jinggrua entered the door, she looked at Lily up and down, seeing how she was in the room in such a cold winter month. But the air conditioner was not turned on, and she was only wearing a thin long-sleeved striped patient gown. She couldn't help but feel even more happy. "Bitch, what are you proud of now? The eldest daughter of the Yang family, ha ha ha, now you can only stay in bed. There is no air conditioning in this place. If the father knew that the daughter he regarded as the apple of his eye ended up like this, I don't know how he would feel. Yang Jingru looked like she was going crazy. After saying this, she couldn't help but laugh. There was a bit of madness in her eyes, and she flirtatiously flipped up her permed and dyed brown curly hair. I'm here to tell you. Yes, I am about to get married to brother Yij, and my sister Rong Rong is getting married to brother Yiming. Lily Yang, you can't think of it, right? Hearing the name Yiming, Lily instinctively felt a sense of pain in her heart. She immediately frowned slightly and suppressed the inexplicable feeling. When she heard Yiming, she felt like there was something in her mind. Something was rolling around, and she thought about it for a long time but couldn't figure it out. Yang Jingru stared at her face closely, seeing her unmoved look. At this moment, even if Lily Yang could pretend it, she would definitely not be able to pretend it for so long. Yes, in Yang Jingru's opinion, if Lily Yang didn't react when she heard Yang Yiming's name, then she must be crazy. In the past, when she was pretending to be a ghost, she would show some signs of it when she heard Yang Yiming's name. Her pupils would shrink and her body would be so stiff that it was impossible to deceive others. Now that she saw that she didn't feel anything, Yang Jingru truly believed that she was crazy. Get out, I'm going to practice martial arts. The sadness in her mind came, making Lily frown unaccustomed, and tried to drive Yang Jingru out in the name of pretending to be crazy, but she didn't know how much the original owner had been offended before. After leaving her, Yang Jingru not only did not leave, but stayed and stretched out her hand to grab Lily's face. Bitch, why don't you die? Living is a waste of food and air, dead is a waste of land, bitch, as bitchy as your mother. Lily's heart trembled when she saw that Yang Jingru's nails were almost reaching her face. She couldn't reveal the fact that she had martial arts at this moment. Lily would not reveal her trump card easily without being completely sure. She sneered. He glanced at Yang Jingru and suddenly shouted loudly, "Why don't you come and escort me?" Yang Jingru didn't know what happened to Dr. Wang back then. When she heard Lily's words, she couldn't help but sneer. You are here too, little bitch. You deserve to be cut into pieces with 1,000 knives. You are as despicable as your mother. You dare to block my way. Now you have fallen into this fate. You really deserve it. Why don't you die? What? Why are you still alive? You can't even freeze to death in such a cold weather. How come you, a little bitch, are so lucky? She kept chanting like crazy. After Lily thought about the name Yang Yiming, she remembered the Yang Jingrong mentioned in Yang Jingru's mouth. That was Yang Jingru's half-sister. In her memory, she was cold. Girl, I haven't seen her for many years. She is 5 years younger than Yang Jingru. Now Yang Jingru is already 27, but she is just 23. Because we haven't seen her many times, I still think about it now. It is the image of a cold girl. While she was thinking endlessly, the sound of a group of footsteps outside was like the sound of wild horse hooves trampling on the ground in unison. Yang Jingru's expression changed, and the door was suddenly kicked open, and she fell to the ground with a clang. Lao Lu rushed in first, and several other people behind him squatted by the door and pointed at the fallen broken door. Will Lao Wang ask us to pay to repair the door? I definitely want it. That old guy's wallet is tighter than his anus, and he can't get anything out of it. Old Qian sighed and shook his head and said, and Chu Yu, who was looking calm at the side, turned to look at him, have you deducted it? Yang Jingru was stunned for a moment when she first saw Chu Yu. She obviously didn't expect that there were such talents among mentally ill people. She was stunned for a long time before she came back to her senses and sneered, Yang Beihe, now you are reduced to this without your father's blessing, this is all you can do. She originally wanted to speak, but old Lu reached out and grabbed her hair. He turned to Lily with a smile and asked, Holy Lord, is this trumpet spirit causing harm to the world? Yang Jingru, who had been dubbed the trumpeter without permission, was shocked. Her long curly hair was being grabbed by someone, and this rude old woman actually grabbed her in pain. Just as she was about to scream, someone made a fist and stuffed it into her mouth. Yang Jingruo's mouth was so swollen that she couldn't close it. She took a hard bite, and the taste of blood filled her mouth, but she saw the hands the owner had a rippling look on his face and groaned. "Harder, harder." Lily was given a headache. Looking at the livid and embarrassed Yang Jingruo, she sneered twice, pretending to be even more arrogant than Yang Jingruo before, and waved her hand, "Drag this monster down, and then what do you do with it?" Upon hearing this, everyone almost went crazy with joy. Yang Jingruo, who couldn't hold on and was struggling, ran away, as if she was afraid that Lily would regret it, just like the little monsters carrying Tang Monk in Journey to the West. Couldn't help laughing until Lily's stomach hurt. But as soon as these people left, the smile on her face gradually faded. What about the Yang family? Yang Yiming? Why did she have such a big reaction when she thought about Yang Yiming's original owner? She will find out. During the Chinese New Year, the mental hospital was still as lively as ever. A group of patients were all crowded in Lily's place, as if she was the head. Now no one would really think that Lily was pretending to be ill. Even Wang the doctor also has no doubts about Lily's condition. After all, she has been taking medicine for nearly a year and a half, and she also spends time with these patients. Even if Dr. Wang spends a day with a neurotic patient, she will definitely become mentally disturbed. No one if he could get along with these people for more than half a month without really going crazy. He believed that Lily had really gone crazy. The Yang family seemed to think so too. The number of people visiting her in the past half-month had decreased, until sometimes in a month or two. No one came to see her. Lily was a little worried about Yang Tiancheng, who was still in the hospital. Her own safety was temporarily saved, but just from the fact that someone scared the original owner into a mental hospital, it could be seen that some people in the Yang family did not want her as the heir. Exists, and Yang Tiancheng's situation can be imagined. To be continued. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Cannon Fodder Strategy. Author, Wan Erwr. Chapter 127. From the memory of the original owner, she knew that this father was cruel to outsiders, but he was the only one who loved her very much. In order to avoid embarrassing her, Yang Jingruo was even several years older than her, but since Yang Beihe's mother passed away, no matter how much trouble the two sisters made outside, he did not marry Yang Jingruo's mother back to the Yang family to give them an upright status. Although the plot has been interrupted by the damn anesthetic, Yang's father still has to be rescued, and she doesn't know what his condition is. Lily believes that Yang's father should be part of the mission, but she is not strong enough at the moment. I didn't want to attract other people's attention for the time being, so I started to feel a little sad. On the first day of the new year, a group of people came over to practice martial arts as usual. In the past 6 months, everyone's martial arts have been perfected. Although they can't compare with Lily's 9 Yang Zhenjing, they can't compete with the first-class martial arts in the world. Compared with the masters, but compared with some disciples of the Imei sect who had learned part of the 9 Yang manual, they were much better. The effect of 1 year of practice was better than that of many people who practiced for 10 years. The reason is that these people are simple-minded and therefore very dedicated. When practicing martial arts, they can endure the loneliness that ordinary people cannot bear. Therefore, they can practice with half the effort and achieve good results. Not long after everyone arrived, Lily also sat with her for a while. She instinctively felt that something was wrong. When she turned her head to look, she saw a tall and slender young man leaning against the door for some reason. He was leaning against the door frame, sideways. His face faced Lily, with the soft long hair hanging down to block his forehead and eyebrows, giving him a somewhat feminine and cool look. He didn't know how long it had been since he came, but Lily didn't notice it just now. Her five senses are now very sensitive, and she can miss such a person. Lily's heart tightened. There was a serious look on his face. "Who is here? Tell me your name." She had already recognized that the young man who came was Yang Yuru, Yang Bei's sworn brother, but at this moment she was pretending to be a mental patient, so she naturally had to show that she had no clue. "As far as I know, the role of intermediate acting skills came into play at this time." Yang Yuru exhaled a breath and stood up straight. His slender figure appeared taller. He had to bend his head when entering the door. He strode towards Lily. At such a time when he was obviously no longer a threat, he would come to see her again, which made Lily surprised and confused. In his memory, Yang Yuru did not learn martial arts. He should mainly do business with Yang Tiancheng. But at this time, the sound of his footsteps could be hidden from him. This was really unusual. Either he appeared suddenly and disappeared like a ghost, or it showed that this person had some strength. It's just that the force is slightly inferior, but the ability to hide one's body is low. Absolutely second to none. No matter which one it was, Lily was wary. Among her 10 sworn brothers, Yang Yifeng, the eldest, was wild and aloof, like a wolf king who never gave up, with strong ambition and vitality. He also desperately wanted to get the Yang family. In the past, he had a strong possessiveness towards Lily Yang, but it actually made Lily Yang a little scared. The third child entered the family late, and his talent in business was really extraordinary, so he was the most valued by Yang Tiancheng. The fourth child is the Yangyage that Yang Jingguo said that day. The Yang family has done so much business and has both black and white paths. Yangyage has entered the black world and will take over Yang Tianken's role in the underworld in the future. Power. As for Lao Wu, he is a well-known piano artist. He studied with a famous teacher since he was a child. Now he is quite famous in the world. He regards money as dirt. The sixth child is Yang Yiming, who Yang Jingguo said would marry her sister and who made Lily instinctively feel something was wrong. He has entered the political circle and is now one of the members of the provincial capital at a young age. He was young, yet personable, and had a promising future. The key was that in his memory, Lily could clearly feel that Lily Yang was a little excited when she thought of this person. The seventh and eighth brothers are twin brothers who are very good at machinery and are now gaining importance abroad. As for the ninth Lao, they are doctors. As for the Yang family, the 10th is responsible for some secret information of the Yang family, which is equivalent to the boss of a spy department. This group of people is not ranked by age, but by the time they entered the Yang family and became adopted sons. The most important thing is that Yang Tiancheng encouraged this group of people to fight against each other to strive for the top. Therefore, several adopted brothers, the world is not harmonious. Even the 5th-year-old Yang Yufan, who seems elegant and ignorant of the fireworks of the world, looks down on the Yang family's money on the surface, but secretly refuses to relax at all. But compared to several of his sworn brothers who have made great achievements in the world, Yang Yuru is just an assistant around Yang Tiancheng and is very inconspicuous. Although he is in charge of the food, drink, and toilet of everyone in the Yang family, he is equivalent to just a housekeeper. Just a career. But Lily didn't dare to underestimate him. Regardless of whether he had excelled in the past or not, even if she only remembered Yang Yuru's gentle smile and soft words of comfort, she still felt that Yang Yuru was dangerous. He could get so close to her unknowingly, and sometimes he would see an expression as warm as the sun mixed with a hint of melancholy. He seemed to blend the two contradictory temperaments well. He didn't feel it at first glance, but the closer you look, the more attractive you are. His appearance is not the most handsome among the Yang brothers. After all, his appearance is not that attractive compared to the evil-looking 5th-year-old Yang Yufan. But if a group of brothers with different temperaments stand together, he will definitely be the most handsome one. It is the most eye-catching one among them. Ziahe, are you feeling better? Yang Yuru walked to the bed and sat down. Even when Chuyu quietly stretched out his leg to trip him, he strode away as if he had eyes. Old Lucy rolled her eyes at him and sat cross-legged in front of Lily without making any small moves. This was really unlike her usual style, and Lily couldn't help but look at her several times. Are you here to join our holy war group and become a great warrior? Since in the eyes of others, he has become so crazy, Lily simply gives up on herself. Seeing that you are still very conscious, I will grant you this title by Maan. As soon as Lily finished speaking, Lao Qian showed shyness on his face. Then I am willing to be that horse. Old Qian, are you crazy? A patient with a righteous face kicked Lao Qian and said righteously, I think I have to ask Dr. Wang to treat you. Have you hidden the medicine recently? Do you want to imitate Chuyu and save some to eat together? She was a crazy person, but she had the nerve to call others crazy. Lily looked up at the ceiling speechlessly, unable to say a word. Recently, Lao Wang has downloaded a lot of pornographic movies on his computer, and they are all gay porn. Lao Qian hesitated and glanced at Yang Yuru, with a bit of shyness on his face, and twisted. He turned around and shouted coquettishly, I hate it. Not to mention that Lily was feeling cold this time, even Yang Yuru's face froze. He sat down on the edge of the bed and stretched out his hand as if to touch Lily's head. The faint smile at the corner of his mouth seemed to have something to do with it. Partially compassionate and a little ruthless. Ziahe, are you homesick? My adoptive father must have missed you. He responded to your news, but you have to be quick, otherwise everything will be too late, he said, as if sighing. He said, regardless of whether Lily could understand it or not, there are many people who are making big moves behind the scenes, and everyone wants to take a bite of the Yang family's fat meat. With a smile, he stretched out his hand to caress Lily's warm face. As if he thought of something, he laughed twice, took off his coat and put it on Lily, and then stood up. Take care. He turned his back to Lily and raised his head. Lily could not see the expression on his face clearly, but she instinctively tensed up. Her sixth sense is really very keen. The instinctive senses accumulated during the long mission years allowed her to feel that Yang Yuru in front of her was very dangerous, but she couldn't tell where the danger was. She closed her eyes as if I can think of Yang Yuru's smile, which is a bit calm and breezy, but also has a bit of elusive mystery. He strode out and never looked back. In fact, Lily's body was no longer afraid of the cold since she practiced the 9 Yang manual. But now she seemed to be able to feel the warmth because of his clothes. General. He is a strange and contradictory man, dangerous and gentle at the same time. As soon as Yang Yuru left, there was no news from the Yang family for half a year. It was as if everyone had forgotten that there was a real Yang family lady like her still in the mental hospital. Spring passed and autumn came, and she had been living in the hospital for 2 years. And have long been familiar with the patients in the hospital. Including the patients, a group of patients began to undergo extremely dangerous changes without Dr. Wang and others noticing. Lily has been practicing the 9 Yang manual for more than a year, which can be said to be able to boost her energy. She is planning to find time in the next 2 days to try to jump over that layer of electricity. Unexpectedly, Dr. Wang once a week during the day when the patrol officer looked at her, his eyes looked like he was looking at a dead person. There is no need to take care of her medicine in the future. The Yang family may not pay for her. I don't have the extra money to support such an idle person. Dr. Wang pointed at Lily and ordered, transfer her to a general ward. Go, make this room available. After cleaning up, this room was originally occupied by Lily, and there was a monitor in it. Now Dr. Wang actually said that there was no need to monitor her. Lily's eyes turned cold, but the nurse was a little curious. Question, Dr. Wang, is there something wrong with the Yang family? There is no problem with the Yang family, but Yang Tiancheng is dying. The Yang family has already called to say that Yang Tiancheng will not survive for a few months. There is no need to waste money and manpower on Lily Yang. After saying this, Dr. Wang he glanced at Lily with some contempt, returning the holy war. The dignified eldest lady of the Yang family has been reduced to playing with mental illness. It is really ridiculous. To be continued. Cannon Fodder Strategy. Author, Wan Erwr. Chapter 128. Lily didn't listen to his sarcastic words. She only noticed that when Dr. Wang said that Yang Tiancheng was dying, she instinctively felt a pain in her body. This should be the emotion left by the original owner. It is too deep, so she can feel it now. Lily was originally planning to practice another skill before going out, but now it seems that time has run out. Yang Tiancheng can't die. Not only is he one of Lily Yang's pillars, but more importantly, he is the most important person to Lily Yang. That damn plot only allowed her to accept half of it because of the anesthetic. What happened next? She had no idea, and it was impossible to guess from the plot that Yang Lily wanted to do things for her, but Lily only knew that Yang Tiancheng could not die. When Dr. Wang and others finished checking the room and Lao Lu and others came to practice again, Lily was just stunned for a moment, and then Chu Yu saw it. You are thinking about men. Although what he said was indeed correct, why did Lily have the urge to push him to the ground and beat him wildly? I wonder if it is because mental patients are deficient in some aspects, but sometimes they can be said to be extremely shrewd in other aspects. For example, I am afraid that Dr. Wang and others cannot see the look on my face at this moment, but Chu Yu actually sees it. Old Lu the others gathered around. Fortunately, Dr. Wang and others had removed all the monitors when they left. Otherwise, Lily really didn't dare to say something clearly at this moment, but at this point, she was not ready to hide it anymore. Although these people are all sick, but after getting along for more than a year, they have some revolutionary feelings here and there, so she nodded honestly. I gotta go. I want to go too. When old Lu heard this, he grinned. Damn it. I had recovered and been discharged from the hospital a long time ago. But old man Wang made things difficult for me. He said that my condition was still very serious. He just didn't allow me. After being discharged from the hospital, if he didn't want to follow the Holy Lord, I would have beaten him long ago. In the eyes of Dr. Wang and others, this group of patients claims to have been practicing martial arts for a year and a half. In the eyes of normal people, isn't this behavior abnormal? Lily's eyes twitched, not to mention that old Lu really thought he didn't know what kind of pills she was still making and selling everywhere. Except for themselves who are pretending to be stupid, the rest of this group of people are indeed mentally ill. Of course it is only natural that they are not allowed to leave the hospital. Old Lu. If the Holy Master eats shit, do you want to eat it too? Chu Yu pushed up his gold-rimmed glasses, looking like a human and a dog. Old Lu glanced at him and actually hesitated for a moment and said without opening his mouth to speak, a middle-aged man named Fang Normal shook his head, shit doesn't taste good. As soon as he said this, everyone stared at him in silence. He seemed to have suddenly come to his senses and laughed hee-hee twice. She shyly turned her head away, and her ears turned red. Lily's eyelids couldn't help but twitch. He took a deep breath. I said I was going to be discharged from the hospital. Shut up. Fang Zhongping, why don't you give me a completely opposite name even though you're obviously not normal? Besides, eating shit is a glorious thing, you are so shy. From this point, it can be seen that few of the people in front of her are normal. Suddenly thinking about getting rid of the group of trolls that have been around her this year, Lily feels unusually relaxed. Ziahe, your family has come to pick you up, old Lu asked. After hearing this, everyone who was usually careless fell silent. Lily sneered and looked at her, I don't need anyone to pick you up. I'll fly out myself. Good idea. Everyone's eyes lit up, and before they could speak, Lily gave a numb warning, don't follow me. Although she said this, Lao Lu and others exchanged glances with each other and laughed very obscenely. In the mental hospital at night, several nurses were sitting in front of the service desk chatting. In the dark night, a figure came out of the room where the lights had been turned off. Not long after she left, all the doors that were originally closed were opened. Slowly opening it, revealing the heads one by one, Lily picked up a few simple changes of patient clothes and walked directly to the back of the hospital. She has kept the topography of the mental hospital in mind for more than a year. The guards should be taking a rest during the time. Generally speaking, there have been no incidents of mental patients escaping from this mental hospital, so it was very easy for her to come out without being blocked by anyone. After a slight lift of air, her body flew out as lightly as a flexible swallow, and she jumped over the electricity easily. There was only a wall between them, but Lily, who had lived in the mental hospital for a year and a half, finally felt the free air outside. Whether it was a psychological effect, she always felt that the moon outside was particularly round and the stars were much brighter. The hospital is located on a mountain, and it is June weather at the moment. The winding road on the mountain is so quiet that only lights every few steps can be seen, and there are no vehicles at all. Fortunately, she still had Qinggong. When she was about to use her Qinggong to quickly walk down the mountain through the trees and find a car to go to Yangtianken's hospital to find out the news, she unexpectedly turned around instinctively before she had taken a few steps. Several figures stood behind her in the darkness, laughing so hard under the starry sky that they stared at her with a hee-hee. Seeing such a scene in the middle of the night, a normal person would be frightened to death. When Lily came back to her senses, she couldn't help but become annoyed and angry. Why are you guys out too? Lao Lu successfully exchanged her unknown black balls for the position of captain. Now it was natural for her to step forward and answer. Of course, we will go wherever the Holy Lord goes. Yes, Zia, we avenged you. After saying this, Lao Qian was surrounded by everyone in the center. Several people had lewd looks on their faces and laughed maliciously. A bad premonition emerged from Lily's heart, and she couldn't help but ask, "What revenge did you take for me?" "We blew up the hospital." As soon as Chu Yu finished speaking, as expected, suddenly, a violent clang sound came out from the mental hospital about 100 meters away, and then it seemed like a burst of fire. Like red clouds, it lit up the night sky on the top of the mountain, making everyone's faces turn red. These people still looked stupid, as if they were not the ones who bombed the hospital. I used to think that these people were stupid. Why didn't I think that they were still in such danger? Thinking of the doctors and nurses who were still in the hospital, Lily fell silent. "Hurry up, otherwise Lao Wang will chase you," Chu Yu urged, and the corner of Lily's mouth twitched fiercely. At this moment, Lao Wang may have gone to Western Paradise, and he will not chase her again. But when they heard the word chasing, for some reason everyone felt a sense of excitement about escaping. In the hospital where explosions kept coming, several mental patients were like wild horses running wild on the mountain roads. "Stand up!" After running for almost an hour, everyone finally got down the mountain. Lily ran toward the highway along the way she came from in her memory. At this point, with a series of tow bottles around her, she probably couldn't escape, not to mention this. Now she may have been regarded as one of the murderers of the terrorist attack. Even if she jumped into the Yellow River, she might not be able to clear her innocence. Escape from a mental hospital and blowing up a mental hospital are two different crimes. Lao Lu and others are stupid and not afraid of the consequences, but Lily is normal. When she thinks that she is forced to continue to hang out with this group of people, she feels like she is a feeling that the future is bleak. There were not many vehicles driving on the highway in the early morning, but after walking for more than an hour, Chu Yu stopped a car. Because he looks the most normal, and although he is stupid on the inside, he looks smart and capable, so he has the highest success rate in stopping the car. Sure enough, after he stopped a Hummer, he pointed in this direction, and soon he waved happily, "Come on, the kind-hearted owner of the car has promised to take us into the city." This mental hospital was built on a mountain. There was no village or store in front of it. If we entered the city like this, everyone would probably be a little tired even if they were full of energy. Now that they had free rides, everyone was naturally happy. There was a couple who looked like a couple in the car. The man was driving the car and was wearing a crisp shirt and tie. The woman sitting next to him had her eyebrows drawn and her eyes drawn, looking fashionable. They didn't know that they were pretending to be a psychopath with considerable lethality and got on the bus. However, when they saw this group of people who were also wearing patient uniforms, the woman still showed a bit of vigilance in her eyes. Could it be which hospital you are from? Chuyu smiled slightly, showing a somewhat cold and reserved temperament. We are doctors, but there were some minor accidents in the hospital, so we escaped. He opened his eyes and told lies, but the woman actually still after believing it, seeing Chuyu's handsome face with a hint of blush on his face, Lily's eyelids jumped. She simply closed her eyes and put the task of talking to people into Chuyu's hands. The car drove all the way into the city and stopped at the city hospital until dawn. When Lily opened her eyes and got out of the car, Chuyu not only successfully used her eloquence to persuade the couple to take everyone into the city for free, but also convinced the woman lent him 5,000 yuan to buy some clothes. The trick of pretending to be a student on the street asking for money to make a phone call, kneeling on the street and displaying family medical records was completely weak in front of Chuyu's trick. He only used his sharp tongue to coax a stranger into giving up. Gave him 5,000 yuan. This is a crazy world. Mental patients who take medicine can easily coax others to wander around, while the people who should be taking medicine are walking around normally. With 5,000 yuan, they went to buy some fitting clothes, and went into the restaurant to eat and drink. The TV in the restaurant was playing the story of an explosion that caused a fire at a private hospital outside the city in the early morning. Old Lu took a look, shook his head and sighed. Poor, really pathetic. I pity you, uncle. It was obviously you who did it. Lily rolled her eyes at her. The host on the TV was reporting, the situation of the fire in the hospital is unknown. The search and rescue personnel are trying their best to enter the fire scene. The firefighters are already extinguishing the fire. If there is further information, we will inform everyone. To be continued. Cannon Fodder Strategy. Author, Wan Erwr. Chapter 129. In fact, all the patients in the hospital had already escaped. Even Dr. Wang and others who had not escaped were clearly in danger. Lily glanced at the firefighters running around in the fire with some sympathy. He sighed and stopped caring about the matter. Instead, he began to think of which hospital Yang Tiancheng was in. It is not difficult to know this. After all, Yang Tiancheng is a well-known big shot. You can find out with just a little inquiry. After everyone finished breakfast, they asked about the hospital where Yang Tiancheng was located and quickly took a taxi and chased him in that direction. Past. Along the way, the driver looked at the crowd of people in fear. There were 2 people lying in the trunk. He didn't want to leave at first, but just as he was about to turn his back and refuse, he looked so fierce and was called an old man. Liu's woman stuffed some pills into his mouth, and said that if he didn't do it, he would die from the poison. I don't know what it is, whether it's expired or not. The key is that you can't take the medicine indiscriminately. What if you die from it? But when he saw the strange expressions of these people, how could he dare to refuse? But I was also afraid of meeting the traffic police. I was invited to the police station today. She was so frightened that she finally drove to the hospital, and Lily was almost squeezed to death. 7 or 8 people were squeezed into a car, and you can imagine how good it felt to sit there. Lao Qian was the last one to get off the bus. When the driver saw that no one wanted to pay the fare, he panicked and stopped being afraid. He quickly reached out and grabbed Lao Qian. You haven't given me the money yet. No matter what you feed him, if he gets diarrhea, he will have to pay for the medical expenses himself. When Lao Qian heard this, he suddenly understood and nodded. While spitting out the chewing gum he picked up from somewhere he was chewing. One side stuck to the driver's palm. "Keep the change, please." "Finished." The driver, who was left looking on the verge of tears, happily patted his butt and followed Lily and others into the hospital. In the hospital, it is not difficult for Lily to find out about Yang Tiancheng. After all, Yang Tiancheng's status is not ordinary, and the nurses and doctors should all know where he is. However, the only difficulty is that he is afraid that others will know but refuse to tell him. Faced with this situation, Lily could only pat Chuyu on the shoulder and ask him to go forward and chat with a young nurse. After a short while, Chuyu came back with a dissatisfied look on his face. "In the top ward on the top floor, this woman actually has 97 hairs on the left corner of her mouth. Who in the right mind would count the hairs on someone's mouth?" Lily rolled her eyes and led a group of people into the elevator. This group of people seemed to be outnumbered, and their expressions were very strange. When the people in the elevator saw the menacing crowd, some people who were about to step in quietly retreated. There is only one ward on the top floor, and the rest has reception rooms, restrooms, and even exercise rooms, just like a large one-story villa. It was very luxurious. Lily led the way and followed the sound of voices and quickly found the front of the ward. In a very spacious ward, a strange male voice was thinking about something at the moment. The surrounding area was quiet, and then Lily heard Yang Yifeng saying, "Should we take off the oxygen mask?" After hearing this, Lily held the door handle without ceremony and twisted it twice. The door was locked from the inside and could not be opened. With too much force, the door handle was ripped off. People who usually do such things are not like Lily. Seeing her do such a thing for the first time, old Lu showed a look of relief on his face, and Lily blushed. Just as he was about to speak, the door opened. His wife was opened from the inside. "Didn't I tell you not to disturb, miss?" a young man shouted impatiently at first, but after seeing clearly who was outside, he couldn't help but after exclaiming in surprise. Lily sneered twice, pushed him away, and walked into the ward. The ward was already crowded with people, everyone was wearing black suits, and the atmosphere was so serious that it was as if the person on the hospital bed who was so thin that he almost seemed to have no breath was dead. That person was as skinny as a stick and no longer as healthy as he remembered. The vivid image is like a branch that has long since withered, carrying a heavy sense of twilight. You must know that Yang Tiancheng is only in his early 40s this year. The old man on the hospital bed probably looks over 80 now. More importantly, his face is faintly green with a hint of lavender. The lips were even more purple and red, and looked very scary. He wore an oxygen mask on his lips, and the needle in his wrist kept him alive. Lily instinctively walked towards him, and suddenly Yang Jingruo's voice rang out. "Bitch, stop!" She seemed a little angry. The Yang family members who came back to their senses seemed to suddenly realize it. Yang Yifeng showed a bit of dissatisfaction on his face, raised his head and rushed into the room. The person shouted, "When is this the only thing the Yang family can do? Someone can come here at any time in the hospital. He has deep facial features and looks very manly. Although he is not an exquisite beauty, he does not have the look of a tough guy. The rough mineral feel is very charming." Lily sneered twice and ignored him. At this moment, she could see that Yang Tiancheng's illness was not simple. She ignored the abnormal looks in the Yang family's eyes and walked towards the hospital bed. Yang Jingruo was just about to scream when she held the hand in her hand. Holding a stack of documents, the gray-haired old man in his 50s already shouted, "Zia He, are you awake?" Uncle Gu. Lily turned around and glanced, recognizing that this was Lawyer Gu, who was employed by the Yang family and deeply trusted by Yang Tiancheng. The person who just spoke was also him. He should be reading the will. Something like that, Lily shouted, and Uncle Gu said happily, "Do you know who I am?" Yang Jingru on the side had a look of worry on her face. Some of the Yang brothers had very ugly faces, while others had complicated expressions. Only Yang Yuru, who was leaning against the wall in the group, curled his mouth and looked very happy. Laughed. "What are you still doing? Why don't you stop him quickly?" Yang Yuj looked gloomy and shouted at the men in black scattered around the room. However, the adopted son of the Yang family had bodyguards, and Lily had one beside her. Seeing old Lu and others taking the initiative to stop the Psycho Legion, Lily just felt relieved, but unexpectedly, when the black-clothed men stretched out their hands from their pockets, each of them took out a pistol. No matter how powerful a mortal is in martial arts, he will definitely not be his opponent once he encounters a weapon. Lily's heart sank. No matter how unreliable Lao Lu and others are, they are still his comrades who have been with him for more than a year. In addition, they came with me this time. If something happens here. When Lily was a little worried, Chuyu glanced at the pistols and suddenly said, "If we pretend to be dead and admit defeat now, will you take the pistols back?" This guy usually looks cold, but now he is begging for mercy. How did he come up with such an unreliable suggestion? When Lily was about to scold her, she saw Yang Yuj sneered twice and waved his hand. "You don't have to show this thing to deal with such a little guy." As soon as he finished speaking, he saw a group of men in black holding pistols. "Take it back again. Is this okay?" Lily almost fell to the ground, but she saw Chuyu and the others laughing stupidly and making moves like lightning. The situation that was bound to lose just now suddenly turned around. She no longer believes in people like Yang Yuj who seem to be smart but actually have grass in their heads. Lily's eyelids couldn't help twitching. She raised her head speechlessly and let out a long breath. Yang Jingru's smile was still frozen on her face. She hadn't come back to her senses yet, with a stiff smile on her face. It took a long time before she pointed out he shouted twice, "This is impossible." There was a dead silence in the room, and everyone was dumbfounded as they looked at the group of mentally ill patients who were very skilled. Suddenly, old Lu shouted with a serious face, "To protect the world and peace." If she hadn't shouted this, Lily would have decided to be friends with her again. As soon as she heard the slogan shouted by Lao Lu, and when Lao Qian and others echoed it seriously, Lily already wanted to turn around and stand beside Yang. The family members took out their pistols and killed them. Dad Lily walked towards Yang Tiancheng who was on the hospital bed. There was a very abnormal gray and defeated look on his face, as if it contained the energy of death. But as he got closer, Lily noticed the gap between his eyebrows. A thin red line came, and his eyes suddenly became sharp. Yang Tiancheng is not sick, but a symptom of being poisoned. There is a thin red line between his eyebrows, which proves that the poison has already penetrated deep into his heart. Now as long as it reaches his forehead, Yang Tiancheng's life may not be saved even by the Deluo God. There is actually someone in this world. There are people who understand Gu. Although it seems that this Gu is just a low-level red thread Gu, Lily still couldn't help but frown. She sat on the edge of the bed and took Yang Tiancheng's wrist to check his pulse. Yang Jingru on the other side was shocked and angry when she saw that such a change would happen when she was about to become something big. "Lily Yang, you bitch." Before she could finish her words, Chuyu, who had stood beside her at some point, slapped her in the face. The sound of pop made Yang Jingru turn her head away. He pushed up his glasses seriously and corrected, "I want to call you Holy Lord." Yang Jingru covered her face and said nothing, but at this moment everyone could feel that if she opened her mouth, it would definitely be a burst of earth-shattering curses. Lily stretched out her fingers and pressed them on Yang Tiancheng's forehead. In just a few blinks, the red line seemed to come alive. Now it traveled from his eyebrows to his forehead. But as soon as Lily pressed it, the red line could no longer go in, and he went crazy. A general tremor started, and as soon as it trembled, the flesh on Yang Tiancheng's forehead couldn't help but beat. After a while, Blue veins popped out around his forehead. To be continued. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Cannon Fodder Strategy. Author, Juan ERWR. Chapter 130. Seeing such a scene, everyone was shocked. A cold girl stood up and stared at Lily with disgust on her face. What are you going to do? She pursed her lips, and her beautiful face was now full of indifference and murderous intent. Lily did not turn around, but pressed all 5 fingers on the center of her eyebrows. People who did not know how to do it would only think that she pressed them randomly, but in fact she 5 fingers have sealed several important acupuncture points where the goo worms can get out of his head. If these goo worms get out, Yang Tiancheng will not be saved. If he meets someone else at this moment, he will definitely not be able to save him, but who can? The person he met was himself. The Southern Territory goo technique that Lily obtained was passed down to her by Lan Yu himself. It can be placed alongside the 9 Yang Manual and others, which fully shows its dominance. At this moment, Lily stretched out her hand and pressed Yang Tianquan's forehead, and shouted to the back, "Uncle Gu, bring me a dagger." As soon as she finished speaking, an open dagger was handed to her outstretched palm. Lily did not dare to look back, but just thanked her and drew the dagger on Yang Tianquan's forehead. "What are you going to do?" When Yang Yifeng and others saw this scene, their faces showed surprise, but the next moment, the expressions on their faces changed to panic and fear. There was a wound in the center of Yang Tianquan's eyebrows, and red threads like living creatures crawled out from it. They crawled out like crazy, and then crawled out like balls of thread and tried to drill into Yang Tianquan's nostrils and ears. But Lily stretched out her blood-stained hand to hold the red threads. These threads were surprisingly thin and very bright red. If she hadn't seen movement occasionally, she would have thought they were threads. "What the hell is this?" Yang Yiming couldn't help but exclaimed, but Lily ignored him. Just quietly watching these red lines pour out. She knows the characteristics of red thread goo. They are the most bloodthirsty. As long as they smell the smell of blood, they can't help but rush out. Compared to living in the human body, they actually prefer to rush into wounds. It seems very scary, but it is not without its shortcomings. As long as there are no wounds, there is nothing you can do about them, and it is equally easy to kill them. Just boil them with hot water and they will melt. However, these things reproduce in an alarming number and grow extremely fast, so it is quite scary to see them even if you are cold. "What a red thread goo!" Lily smiled and lifted up a dense ball of thread-like things wrapped between her palms. These things were still struggling desperately to find wounds, and for a moment they seemed reluctant to let go. As if leaving the fishy smell on Lily's hand, black blood flowed out from the wound on Yang Tianquan's forehead, and no more red thread goo emerged. In 2 years, his body became a nutrient tank for the growth of red thread goo. But he is still alive, which shows how much suffering he has suffered. Lily couldn't help but show pity in her eyes when she saw Yang Tiancheng, who seemed to be relieved that all the poisonous insects in his body had been released. "Zia this." Uncle Gu's voice rang at this moment. Lily was holding a ball of crumpled red thread and throwing it in her hand like a toy. She turned her head and stared at the group of people in front of them. "Looked, you have the ability. No wonder my father can wake up after being comatose and scare me. Who bewitched him? Come forward. Otherwise, when I take action, I will use you to test the bugs." One person at a time put a few of these things into your body. After Lily finished speaking, she grinned. "You have also seen that my father's physical condition is like that. Who wants to be like him?" The Yang brothers shook their heads with pale faces, a look of horror on their faces. Among this group of people, Lily just discovered that the person who handed the dagger to her was actually Yang and Yang Yuru. Although he had a warm smile on his face at the moment, there was a bit of surprise and uncertainty in his eyes, not to mention the others. Several people were even more unbearable. Yang Yufan and others turned around and vomited, looking very unbearable. To Lily's surprise, even Yang Jingru looked horrified, as if she had seen a ghost, but there was one person who surprised her. Although she was pretending very well at this moment, but in her eyes still couldn't help but show a bit of surprise and panic. Although there was fear on her face, the fear was as if someone had discovered some secret that had been hidden for a long time, rather than the fear of being shocked by seeing this kind of behavior when exorcising the poison. Normal people's fear when they see goo magic is the inner feeling of unknown creatures, but she is different. She seems to be holding back something. Lily really didn't expect it. She guessed that it might be the arrogant Yang Jingru, but he never thought that it would be Yang Jinrong, who was so normal in his mind. "It's you," Lily shook off the bug in her hand. The Yang brothers beside her had already hid far away, fearing that she would accidentally throw the bug on them. This sentence made no sense. Brainless, others may not understand what it means, but Yang Jinrong suddenly understood it, because Lily saw her pupils shrinking with sharp eyes. No matter how calm her expression was, the details of this moment were still betrayed her. After finding the person hiding in the dark, Lily rolled the bug in her hand into a ball, held it and walked towards Yang Jinrong. However, she smiled slightly, with a hint of fear in her eyes, and glanced at Yang Yiming. "Brother Ming." Yang Yiming hesitated for a moment and stood in front of Yang Jinrong. "Zia He, you are discharged from the hospital, SHH. We are escaping from the hospital." Lao Qian came forward, put one hand in front of his lips, leaned over tenderly, and pinched Yang Yiming's butt. Yang Yiming's face instantly turned pale and he stared at Lao Qian. His face turned red and he was speechless. The severe pain in Lily's heart came back to her. She looked at the handsome young man in front of her, almost feeling distressed as if she could not breathe. There was gentleness between his eyebrows, which was very different from Yang Yuru's gentleness. Different from the cold feeling, the first impression he gives is like a sun that can warm people but lacks the scorching heat, pleasant and comfortable. His eyebrows were very light, like distant mountains, and the corners of his eyes were raised, as if he were smiling, which made people feel very comfortable. When he stared at Lily, Lily felt an inexplicable hatred welling up in her heart. There seemed to be no scenes of Lily Yang and Yang Yiming being together in her past memories, but now she actually felt that she hated Yang Yiming. Lily frowned, suppressing the strange feeling in her heart, and said with a frown, "Yang Yiming, if you don't get out of the way, I'll treat you to a feast." After she finished speaking, she raised her hand threateningly. When Yang Yiming heard her threat, he glanced at her in disbelief. His handsome face showed a bit of shock, disgust, and fear. The various expressions merged together, making his gentle face. His face looked a little distorted for no reason. "Zia He, why have you become like this? Don't you know best when I become like this?" Lily blurted out a subconscious sentence. After saying this, she frowned and glanced at Yang Yiming with some suspicion, and the look in her eyes became colder. Yang Yiming froze for a moment. When he came back to his senses, there was a look of pity mixed with disgust in his eyes. He sighed and said in a very disappointed tone, "Zia He, don't be like this. What I like now is wrong. It's not you anymore." He said it as if he and the original owner had liked each other before. Lily sneered and glanced at him. No matter whether the original owner really liked this person before, she was the one who made the decision now. Yang Yiming clearly talking to her in such a tone that sounded like a love saint was really off-putting. Lily ignored him, but instead wanted to look past him and behind Yang Yiming. Yang Yiming looked at the red thread on her hand that was struggling now with some fear, and trembled while blocking Yang Yurong, afraid said, "Come to me for what you want, but I hope you won't target Renji. After all, she is your biological sister. Even if your adoptive father comes back to life, he doesn't want to see you killing each other. Get out of here, you bastard." Lily kicked him away. The seemingly tall man turned out to be very vulnerable. Lily stretched out her legs, and he stumbled out of the way, revealing the low-hanging figure behind him. A cold girl came with her head tilted and her expression unclear. Being kicked by Lily in front of so many people, Yang Yiming's face turned red for a moment, and he said loudly, "Lily Yang, are you crazy? Forget it if you treat me like this. If you dare to hurt wrong even a hair, I will never forgive you in the future." There was a look of pain in his eyes like a love saint, which made Lily's balls hurt. He picked up the red thread goo in his hand and took a look, then turned around decisively and grabbed Yang Yiming. He pushed him to the ground, pulled out 2 red thread worms and stuffed them into his mouth. When Yang Yiming saw such a scene, he almost went crazy with fear. He dared to open his mouth and closed his lips tightly. He had just seen Yang Tianquan's fate and knew that if he ate this thing, he might end up like him. Yang Tianquan had the same ending. This thing is also very evil. Yang Tianquan fell asleep for so long after being sent to the hospital. No one knows what caused him. If he ate this thing, wouldn't he be the same as Yang Tianquan? Since you have learned to shut up now, please shut your mouth firmly after I get out of the way, otherwise I may not be able to help but put such a big lump into your mouth. Do you understand? Lily Yang Yiming asked with a frown, his face turned green with fright. How could he dare to say something that he didn't understand at this moment? He didn't even dare to express his anger, and nodded desperately. Seeing the red thread goo so close, he thought of just now this thing crawled out of Yang Tianquan's body. He couldn't help but lean over and spit out a lot of things. The sour smell in the room became stronger. Lily stood up in disgust and wrinkled her nose. "You are so virtuous, and you dare to imitate heroes and save beauties. I won't kill you." To be continued. Cannon Fodder Strategy. Author, Juan ERWR. Chapter 131. Hearing this, everyone in the room had different expressions. Yang Yiming's face was ashen and a little pale, but in the end his lips moved and he said no more words. "Okay, now Miss Yang Jingrong, can you tell me where you got these red thread goo?" Lily glanced at the cold-looking girl in front of her, and stretched out her hand to shake the one in her hand. When everyone turned blue with fear, Yang Jinrong suddenly laughed. "Zia, you actually know that this is the red thread goo, you actually know how to drive away the goo, where did you learn it, coming?" These words shocked everyone. Even Yang Jingru turned to stare at her and subconsciously shouted, Wrong. I observe the celestial phenomena at night and have to be taught by experts. Stop talking nonsense. I want to get the Yang family's property, so why do you put a poison on my father?" Seeing that she was not too afraid, Lily smiled. This red thread poison looked like scary, but in fact it is not difficult to deal with them as long as you know their weaknesses. So she walked to the cabinet nearby, took an empty teacup, threw away all the tangled goo insects, and raised the hot water bottle to pour. She poured some boiling water and saw the red thread goo quickly melting into balls of light pink juice. She then rinsed her palms with hot water. Until there were no traces of insects in the white and tender palms, she turned to Yang Jingrong and smiled. "Do you want to get the Yang family?" "Impossible." Yang Yiming saw that all the bugs seemed to have disappeared for a while, and he became brave again. He stood up shivering and wiped his mouth in deep humiliation. Wrong is so kind beautiful, there is no way she would do such a thing." Lily felt another pain in her heart. A sadness emanated from the bottom of my heart. Her whole face couldn't help but suddenly change. "Brother Yuru. Now that they have discovered it, what do you think we should do?" Yang Jinrong, who had been showing a weak and indifferent posture just now, suddenly raised her head, with a playful smile on her face, but as soon as she finished speaking, everyone's expressions changed. No one present was stupid. They didn't understand what Yang Jinrong meant. She and Yang Yuru might have been colluding secretly for a long time. Everyone in the Yang family had a piece of the cake. Want to? But Yang Tianquan, an old fox, was very cunning. He said that his first heir would be his legitimate daughter Lily. If anything happened to Lily and she died unexpectedly, all the property of the Yang family would be donated to charity. Because of this, Lily was not assassinated after she went crazy, but lived safely all the time, because Yang Tiancheng had added to this will, and any of his wishes could not be changed in the future. Lily Yang did not die in the end, but unfortunately she was sent to a mental hospital. Maybe after she became ill, she lost her autonomy. She is an alluring sweet potato. As long as someone takes her over to take care of her in name, they can take over the Yang family's huge property. And who will worry about whether Lily Yang is good or bad in the hospital? As long as she doesn't die and can ensure that others can use the Yang family's property, it doesn't matter how crazy she is, it will be more beneficial to them. But Lily thought that the murderer behind the scenes was Yang Yiming, who made her a little uneasy. She also thought that it was Yang Yij who was married to Yang Jingruo, who hated her to the core. She even thought that it might be Yang Yifeng, the eldest among the adopted sons in her hometown, but she did not think about it. This dangerous man who came to see her several times was actually interested in the Yang family's property. Although the Yang family has a huge property, Yang Yuru does not seem to be the kind of person who is greedy for money. He seems to be so powerful that he no longer needs these things to set him off. If he really wants these things, he can actually marry him. Lily Yang owned it openly. If he had such ambitions, it should be a very simple thing to make Lily Yang, a young and careless girl, fall in love with him, but he didn't. Lily fell silent and turned to look at the young man who had just handed the dagger to her. At this moment, he gently pushed up his glasses with a smile on his face, a smile that made people feel like a spring breeze, just like Yang Yiming's. Gentleness is different. Yang Yiming's smile makes people see at a glance that he is a soft-hearted good man. He is so gentle that he seems to be close to his heart. But when Yang Yuru smiles, he gives people a different feeling, as if he is a bit distant and indifferent. So, especially when he was able to laugh out loud in such a situation, he looked even more sinister. The cooperation that Miss Yang mentioned turned out to be those bugs just now. It's really surprising Yang Yuru didn't mean to refute Yang Jinrong's words. He just smiled and glanced at the pink liquid in the cup, with an exclamation on his face. Z's lie, the world is so big and full of wonders. Sure enough, there are many things worth exploring. Second brother. Yang Yifeng shouted unhappily. As soon as he finished speaking, Yang Yuru's smiling eyes fell on him. Yang Yifeng felt murderous intent rushing towards him, making him take 2 steps back involuntarily. Speechless. Forget it, I've had enough of the Yang family's farce. Ziahe, the method you used just now is very magical, can you teach me? Yang Yuru withdrew his gaze from Yang Yifeng, and smiled as he walked towards Lily. Coming over, Lao Lu rushed to Lily like a monkey and said softly, Xiao He, this man seems to be in some danger. She was not stupid. At this moment, she instinctively felt something was wrong. Lily reached out and pushed her on the forehead, then stay away. Yang Yuru is indeed very dangerous. He is now full of momentum, as if he wants to release all his previously restrained momentum. The ward is filled with a sense of tension that is about to break out. Can you teach me? Yang Yuru asked again, frowning somewhat unhappily. His hands suddenly spread out flat, and a small whirlwind seemed to form in his palms at a speed visible to the naked eye. He standing next to the bed, the sheet seemed to be shaking slightly. If he was also a martial arts practitioner and had practiced internal strength, then Lily already felt that he might survive a mental illness on this mission, but it's also possible that it won't be completed. No, although there was a possibility that the task could not be completed, Lily still refused Yang Yuru's request. She could teach someone her skills that she would not have, and she could not yet achieve this kind of self-sacrifice spirit. Naturally, it is impossible to teach Yang Yuru. What's more, for these people, the end of life may be just the last. But for her, This end of life is just the beginning of another one, so she didn't panic at all and just told Lao Lu and others. Run out, run as far as you can. Be a normal person from now on. It may have been her last words before she died. As soon as she finished speaking, Lao Lu and others showed distressed looks on their faces. They hesitated and said in unison, "This request is too difficult. Can you change it to another one?" If the situation wasn't so tense right now, Lily would definitely not be able to help but step forward and beat these people up. She glared at old Lu and the others with her face turning green and white, and then shouted, "Get out." Although this group of patients are simple-minded, they have practiced martial arts for too short a time. Yang Yuru looks like a ruthless person who has practiced martial arts for more than 10 years. It is possible that they are not his opponent. As soon as Lily finished speaking, Yang Yuru chuckled. Yang Jinrong stood by the window at some point and locked the windows. "Lily, you think too simply. Brother Yuru and I are actually not what you think. We just want the Yang family's property." There was a look of contempt on her face, as if property was nothing, as if the superior gods couldn't see clearly. They are like insignificant mortals on the earth. It was the first time that Yang Yiming saw such a look on the face of the cold and elegant Yang Jinrong, and he couldn't help but froze. "Wrong, wrong. You are all going to die, Brother Yiming." Yang Jinrong's long black and smooth hair was pushed aside, and her face hung from the left side on her chest. She looked innocent and cute, and her eyes were cold when she smiled. Like a lotus growing out of a blue pool, alluring and charming. The people in the Yang family seemed to not understand what Yang Jinrong meant, and they all looked confused, but Lily let out a long sigh of relief. She still couldn't figure out what the half of the plot she missed was. At this moment, she saw Yang Yuru showing her true face, and seeing Yang Jinrong jumping out and saying that she wanted her to die. She didn't take in all the plot for a moment, but she could even guess what was going to happen next. If she hadn't accidentally disrupted the situation, whether it was the original owner Lily Yang or the person who did the task later, it is possible that the final result would be to stay in a mental hospital and be monitored for several years, while being sedated and anesthetized constantly. Under such circumstances, it is enough to torture a person to the point of madness. If it hadn't been her, if she hadn't taken advantage of the situation and pretended to be crazy and put her intermediate acting skills to use, I'm afraid she wouldn't have escaped the bad luck of being given drugs and injections, and she would have lost herself in less than half a year. And when Yang Tiancheng dies from the poison again a year later, the mission may almost be said to have failed. This is a lose-lose situation. The mission is not completed, but he loses himself. He can be forced to get sick and then recover. The possibility is very slim. It can be seen from the fact that Lao Lu and others have become more and more nervous after entering the mental hospital. Especially when the mentally ill people do not want Lily Yang to wake up, it is almost possible to return to the space soberly. Say it's impossible. If that were the case, the person doing the mission would have lost his wife and troops, so some of the previous missionaries had failed. Lily could imagine their fate: either they had gone crazy or were on the verge of going crazy. Therefore, fortunately it was me who came, and fortunately it was me who happened to be good at acting and bewitching. I escaped the torture in the mental hospital, and now I can see through Yang Tianquan's true situation, making the ending that was bound to lose more. A glimmer of possibility. And Lily Yang's unwillingness could probably be felt by Lily. When she saw Yang Yiming, her heart felt sore, painful, and uncomfortable. It is conceivable that even if she did not have the experience of falling in love with Yang Yiming in her memory, she was definitely in love with Yang Yiming. The relationship between Yiming is not simple, and may have been hidden from other people, so Yang Yiming was so confident in saying that he would not forgive himself in front of her, and his attitude was very firm, as if he knew that Lily liked him. It is impossible to adjust oneself, and it is easy to test whether the original owner's past has anything to do with him. Thinking of this, Lily shook her wet hands, stared at Yang Yiming and smiled slightly. Yang Yiming, you tried your best to send me to a mental hospital. Are you happy now? As soon as she finished speaking, Yang Yiming's face showed shock and panic. He glanced at Lily in a panic, and subconsciously retorted, "What are you talking about?" His trembling tone still betrayed the discomfort and guilt in his heart. Lily didn't expect that her character was really good, and she could deceive the truth so casually. She sneered twice, thinking of the way Yang Yiming defended Yang Jingrong just now. Since the original owner wanted to do the task, it proved that she had a wish and was not willing to give in. Without knowing what the plot was, Lily would not rashly attack Yang Yiming. He seemed to value Yang Jinrong very much just now. Lily curled her lips and said, "You like Yang Jinrong very much, right? I wonder if I killed Yang Jinrong, or if I asked her to kill you, would you be heartbroken to death?" She wanted Yang Yiming but she couldn't. It's good to die, or die at the hands of Yang Jinrong. Or see the person he likes die in front of him. This punishment should be enough for Yang Yiming, so he showed sadness and shock on his face. "Lily, you have changed, you have become cruel, you are no longer the Ziahe I used to know." At this point, he still had the nerve to say such things. Lily had already deceived him just now, and he was indispensable for Lily Yang to be admitted to the mental hospital. When the original owner was subjected to all kinds of insults. Where is he who was once not cruel? If you already knew today, why bother in the beginning? Only now are we talking about what has changed. Even a dog is more loyal and reliable than a person like him. Lily looked at him condescendingly, pointed at him and said coldly, "Shut up, otherwise I won't mind pulling out your tongue." Yang Yiming's face turned pale. Thinking of her weird method just now, he couldn't believe it for a moment, but he was also afraid that it was true. He was a congressman and had a bright future in the future. He couldn't take risks in this place, so Yang Yiming knew the truth. He didn't speak, just stared at Lily with reproachful eyes. "Yiming, you are so shameful," the boss Yang Yifeng sneered twice, and just when he was about to speak, Yang Jingguo couldn't bear it and shouted, "Lily Yang, you bitch, you will die soon, right now, who do you want to kill?" As soon as she finished speaking, Lily walked towards Yang Jingrong with a smile. She walked not slowly. One moment she seemed to be staying in the same place, and the next moment she was standing beside Yang Jinrong. When everyone had not recovered, she was already. He reached out and grabbed Yang Jinrong's neck. Yang Jingguo shut her mouth and realized that the Lily she had just seen was just an after-image. For the first time, a look of horror appeared on her face. She watched the Lily's shadow gradually disappear. This kind of thing had already taken advantage of her. The fact that something happened in front of her still left her speechless in shock. "Yang Jinrong, do you want to kill Yang Yiming, or do you want to be killed by me?" Lily didn't say any more nonsense to Yang Yurong. She stretched out her hand and tightened her neck until she couldn't breathe. The murderous intent flashed in her eyes. Flash past. Lily knows goo magic, and seems to be really good at martial arts. Yang Jinrong, who had been calm just now, for the first time, the indifferent look on her face was replaced by confusion and panic. She subconsciously reached out and grabbed Lily's hand. Those hands, the hands that were supposed to be slender, were now covered with fine calluses, and when they were clasped around her neck, they seemed like iron claws. She really wanted to kill herself. Obviously it shouldn't be like this. In the past, Lily Yang couldn't do anything. She was just a stupid waste. After so many years of deployment, it was impossible for him to misunderstand that she practiced martial arts. If she was really so capable, how could she have done it in the first place? Will he really be sent to a mental hospital? Yang Jinrong's face showed a look of struggle. She couldn't believe it, but she couldn't help but not believe the facts. Lily knows the art of voodoo. She once watched people practice voodoo with great difficulty, and secretly learned a few tricks. When God gave her a chance to start over, she thought everything was in her own hands. She originally thought she could change her tragic fate, but was it all just her imagination? She is not willing to give in. You cough. Stop talking nonsense, let me count to 3. After Lily said this, she clasped her hands tighter. 1. As soon as she finished speaking, she exerted her fingers slightly, and there was a soft click sound, and Yang Jinrong's eyes instantly opened. Her eyes widened, and her neck tilted at a weird angle. The hand that was pinching her neck was retracted. Without any support, her body slid down softly. When she was about to fall to the ground, she only looked at seeing Lily's cold and disgusted expression. She murmured, "You lied, obviously, you only counted once." Chuyu, who was standing aside and watching, couldn't help but stretched out his hand to push up his glasses and said coldly, "Idiot. I didn't say I'll kill you after counting 3 times." All mentally ill patients understand this, but Yang Jinrong still thinks that she is some kind of idiot and is trying to play tricks on herself. Lily glanced noble and coldly at Yang Jinrong's body, which was still twitching slightly on the ground. She just raised the corner of her mouth, but felt something was wrong. He turned around and glared at Chuyu. To be honest, what Chuyu said is indeed correct. She meant that too, but it was really not a glorious thing for her to be able to keep pace with mental patients instead of being understood by normal people. You actually. Yang Yiming saw Yang Jinrong fall to the ground. The fool also knew what Lily had done to her just now. Yang Yiming's face suddenly turned pale, and for a moment, he looked like his dead mother. With a heartbroken look on his face, he shed tears silently for a while. Then I didn't know where the strength came from. I stood up, pointed at Lily, and shouted at her hoarsely. "Why are you coming at me? Why do you treat wrong like this? Even if I'm sorry for you, why do you want to kill her?" He roared loudly, veins on his forehead jumped wildly, and 2 tendons bulged on his neck. "Looked very scary. I hate you, I will never forgive you, don't think you can get me by killing wrong, you are just dreaming." Lily looked at him and shouted like crazy. He looked back at Lao Qian and said, "Old Qian, this guy gave it to you. You can play with it as you wish." Lao Qian usually has a wretched appearance and loves to tease men. When there was only one Dr. Wang in the mental hospital, he would sneak into Dr. Wang's office from time to time to find some souvenirs. He thought he would give him a man. Qian Hui would be overjoyed. Unexpectedly, old Qian would have a look of disgust on his face at this moment. Damn it! Lily's brows jumped crazily. She resisted the urge to let Lao Qian say something. She took a deep breath and turned away her head. Instead, she set her sights on Yang Yuru. At this moment, the ward was like an explosion. Everyone recognized the meaning of Yang Yiming's previous words. Some scolded him for being unloyal and doing things behind the scenes, while others scolded him for being shameless. Everyone looked envious. With a look of jealousy and hatred, only the man sitting in front of the bay window did not speak. He stared here with interest as if watching a farce, one leg stretched out, and the other leg was resting on the bay window, and his right hand supported the leg to support his chin. When Lily turned to look at him, he nodded to Lily very politely, showing a somewhat genuine smile. Very nice. It's a pity that Lily didn't think anything good at all at this moment and was forced to kill Yang Jinrong. In fact, she wanted to get more useful information from Yang Jinrong, but Yang Jinrong had a face that seemed smart, but was actually stupid. It's so awesome that you have to be so cautious when you get to this point. In the TV series, after the villain captures the decent person, he will talk nonsense for a long time. In the end, it is impossible to kill the hostage without telling him, but he will be beaten to death. There was no way it would fall on her, so she made the first move. Although she didn't regret it at the moment, it was still a bit more troublesome, so she frowned and stared at Yang Yuru. Although she tried to be calm on the surface, in reality a lot of cold sweat broke out in her palms. "Ziahe, Why didn't I know you had such an ability before? How did you recognize the red thread goo? Yang Yuro could see that he was really curious. His expression of humbly asking for advice did not seem to be fake. In this strange atmosphere, his relaxed attitude revealed the heaviness of the atmosphere. Lily looked at him smiling and blinking, her heart heavy. At this point, Yang Yuro still looked relaxed. Either he was pretending, or he really had the strength to kill everyone in the venue. Thinking of his ability to approach her without being discovered, Lily couldn't help but feel depressed no matter how much she knew in her heart. After all, the time was too short. If she was given more time, she would definitely be able to finish it. Success in this mission can reverse the situation. To be continued.